Hey Chris, we are live and recording. Thanks for taking the time to talk to my current students and the internet. So, Chris, super excited to talk to you this morning. You just got a little bit darker. Did you change the lighting?
One of my monitors from sleep.
Anyways, really excited to talk to you this morning. I think you have a lot of really good insight for my students, and I could probably do a brief introduction to you. Before we hit record, I said this. One of the most successful graduates out of Ranken Technical College that I'm aware of. So, Chris has definitely climbed the corporate ladder and had a successful development career. And for that reason, super excited. But let's just start with, would you mind introducing yourself?
So my name is Chris Marfia. I am a senior consultant and application architect at Daugherty Business Solutions. I graduated Rankin in 2011, I believe, and went off to actual Webster after that to continue a degree, and that ruined the lighting. But then I've been in the field ever since. So 11 plus years ish, actually being an engineer.
That job title is a mouthful. Can you repeat that?
I'm a senior consultant, and then like my role is an application architect.
Application architect. And you said at Daugherty Business Solutions.
Yes.
And typing some notes. And how long have you been with Daugherty?
A little over probably 4.5 years now.
4.5 years. Nice. And I could tell by the virtual background you are working from home.
Yes.
And I asked before, so I want to get this on recording for record keeping purposes. How many monitors do you have on your home desk setup?
I have currently 5 monitors.
Very nice, very nice. And application architect is your job title. You do a little bit of teaching too, right?
Yes, so I have a variety of roles that I actually do at Daugherty. So between like the client work, where it's mostly that's where the application architect lies. I am also a lead for a program called Daugherty University. So that is a program that we have internal to Daugherty where we hire people that are more junior to the field and need a better foot in the door. So in that program, we hire a bunch of individuals from diverse backgrounds, from schools like Rankin, people who are self-taught, boot camps like Launch Code, and then we put them through like 8 weeks of training. And then in that course is where I'm doing a lot of teaching. Lately, I'm one of the leads for that program. I've been the lead for like 3.5 years, so I oversee it from like a care perspective, making sure the students are okay and it's not too stressful, and also I teach in that.
And so this is a really unique perspective because a lot of Rankin students view Daugherty as top employer to pursue after graduating. And so, what would be your advice, during the interview process for a Rankin student to stand out and get their foot in the door at Daugherty?
And so a lot of Rankin students, I don't know the count off the top of my head, you might know it better than me, have gone through the Daugherty University program. And a lot of the standing out nature of that, I would say professionalism and know your basics. A lot of the things that you will learn throughout your career and that really go down to the basics of like what computer science is and how to solve those problems. Because as a consultant, we don't just do one thing. So we won't be just doing like C# forever. There is a lot of different language swapping that we would do depending on our clients' needs, things like that. From my personal experience, let's see, the last engagement I was on, or the last team, I went from using Scala and Java to using Node and TypeScript to doing stuff with Golang, and then going from Vue to React on like the websites, and using a variety of databases. So like knowing the basics and fundamentals, that's what carries over between those different languages. So even like a program like Daugherty University or just being out in the field, like having a good sense of fundamentals is what will carry from language to language and job to job.
I like that. That's good. Did you have a good sense of the fundamentals when you got out? Like when you were a brand new developer?
I had enough to fumble. So a lot of that was learned over a couple years of going through a couple different companies. So when I started out of Rankin, I worked at a really small development firm. And then there, I had a good sense of learning more of the wide range of skills in an actual like job setting because they only had like 6 engineers at that place. So I did a lot from what now is called the full stack. So I did the database work, I did like SQL changes, data migrations, I did API development, I did UI design. So being able to learn all of those different pieces a little bit at a time, like you see where the crossovers are. So I had enough from Rankin to go into that and not be worried. Even being thrown into a job where I had to do like the full stack right out of college.
Nice, nice. Um, Man, you already answered one question, which was what language is on the job, and so, in your answer about the fundamentals, having those down. Um, can you be more specific about the fundamentals? What fundamentals are important for these students to focus on?
I would say the one thing that probably is not taught and is learned on the job is where to find things. From my experience, knowing where to find the answer is more important than knowing the answer because you can only hold a certain amount of information in your head. So being able to quickly identify if I'm looking for like a .NET based problem, I need to go to these resources and find out how to solve it. Or if I'm looking at a JavaScript problem, these are the correct resources to look at. Because a lot of the time when you are solving these problems, you're on a team, people there, they can help you. But knowing where to get the quickest information possible is a skill that I would say is not like taught in a school. You would have to like learn that through the field. Other fundamentals are like the basics of like operations and coding. What are like reference versus value types, I would say is like switching from like JavaScript to like Golang and things like that. Like knowing what the differences on those are because they syntactically and like at the base level, those languages are so different. But if you have a good understanding of what those are and you actually know what the program's doing behind the scenes, that can really carry over between them.
So for example, when you're passing data between methods, understanding passing by reference and passing by value.
Yes, understanding what pointers are is very helpful when working with Go.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the core of that.
Very cool, very cool. So you've got 11 years or so field experience. Assuming you've worked on a lot of websites and a lot of applications. Do you have any one app that stands out as like one of your favorite or one of, for example, you would label as the coolest software that you worked on?
It would probably not be a web app. It was actually a step away from that, and it was more of a data pipeline. So we had a problem at one of my clients that we had to work on where it was, let's say we had like 60 million events happening a day. We need to process those in live, like a live stream, and then make sure the users are updated with the information as soon as possible. So we got to use a lot of technologies there. We were in AWS at the time, so there was we funneled data in through Kafka, which is a message broker for us to get some messages through, and then we put it through some AWS tools. So we had Kinesis, which is a data stream. We were able to funnel that through Lambdas into a database, do data crunching there, and then have that ported over to an engine of sorts. It was written in Go, and it allowed us to process that data really, really quickly. So we can process all of it near real time. Basically, between the data got into the system to the data got into the users, it was like less than a minute.
And how many transactions did you mention this was in a day?
60 million in a day.
60 million transactions in a day. And basically, you were sending the relevant information of those transactions to end users. And how fast was it?
Between like the when the data got in to when it got propagated all the way to the user, it was like within seconds, but usually within a minute the user can see the updates to it. It was really nice.
And so that's impressive because that's just so incredibly fast. Um, was that like an internal software that you were working on or something public facing?
That was internal to the client I was working with. It was actually the reason we switched to Go. So we were using Node for that, but then the single-threaded nature of it was couldn't handle the load that we were doing. So we, as a team, decided that we would learn Go as a language. So we all learned Golang, and then within like about 2 months or so, we converted all of our Node applications to Go, and then we saw that performance improvement there. So we had the autonomy to be able to say this language doesn't work for us. Let's find a better tool for the job. And I think that's why it was one of the coolest projects I worked on.
Yeah, yeah, that's neat. That's real cool. So what's a day in your life like for work? I mean, you wake up. What time do you clock in? What's a normal day like?
So since I'm at home, it's really I have a lot of bandwidth there. So morning meetings on my current team are anywhere between starting at around 7 or starting at 8 a.m. And that's just due to my team's an international team. We have engineers that are here in the US. We have engineers that are in Brazil. We have business partners and data scientists that are in Germany. And we also have some business partners that are in India as well. So like the morning time frame of like 7 to around 11 is the time where all of our different time zones overlap. So we have all our meetings then. And then basically after 11 to the end of the day is coding time and dev time, where we go out in breakout rooms and we do what we need to solve the stories for our sprint. And then we have a lot of flexibility there. So like I have a young one at home. So like I go out and pick them up from school, and then I work in the evenings to make up the time.
Congrats on the young one. How young's a young one?
Young being 6.5, so not that
Okay.
eight.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. I thought it was a few years back. It was pretty cool, man. Congrats. Um, what advice would you give to a current student at Rankin to not only be successful well, let's just start with you're going through school. Let's pretend you're 13 years ago. You're a brand new student. What do you know now that could help you be more successful in school while you're going through it? Like, what advice would you give?
Um, let's see. Actually turn in your assignments. That was one thing.
Yeah, I imagine you turned in, I don't remember, this is 13 years ago, but I imagine you turned in your assignments.
One I didn't.
All right. All right.
Let's see. So going through school, probably one, keep your reference books. I know like the books are really, a lot of people use like physical textbooks, but they're really helpful, especially when you're wanting to go back in things. I still have my Java books from Rankin that I dive into. The other thing I would say is if you are trying to like keep reference to something, especially your coding assignments and things like that, make sure you store those somewhere that you can get access to. Again, they're great for using in a portfolio, and they're also great for like keeping track of where you were. So if you are building school assignments in .NET or something of that nature, like put them in GitHub, even if a private repository, because that's a good check for you. If you try to solve the same problem or something similar in the future, it shows how much you grew, because you can go back and read your own code, and then you can see like how to improve there. One thing I say is like if you want to practice public speaking or that you record yourself in a presentation, learn where you're saying and things like that. It's how you improve that sense. Learning how you improve code is you can read your code, you read other people's code, you can kind of see things. So like doing those like self code reviews kind of shows you where you need to go and how far you've gone. So that is something that as a student I would look at, because that would be where my gauge of like how much am I improving comes from. Like, did I solve this problem in a better way? Can I solve this in a better way? The other thing I would say is something I did not do at my first job, and I actually regretted it and went back to that first company a couple years later, was don't be afraid to ask for help. Especially if there's someone at the job that you might just be intimidated by because they are just so smart, or just like in a sense, like you don't want to bother them. Like, don't have that feeling. That they are people at the company that are at those higher levels than you. They're there to support you and have you grow. In like a management position right now, like my main goal is to make sure that everyone on my team can grow to that next level. And like that's part of my job, is to ensure everyone has a career path. So like that's their job too. It's like make sure those doors are open for you and don't shut them before you even had a chance to go through.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Probably a good balance of, you want to be a problem solver, so you want to attempt, to solve the challenges that are in your face, but you also don't want to be spinning your wheels and stuck. So you got to know when to ask.
Yeah, so that is something that someone at Daugherty told me that's been really beneficial, and I tell a lot of the individuals going through like the Daugherty University program, is if you're on a problem, time box it. So if you are actually looking through something and you're hitting a wall, and don't waste a whole day. Time box it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, what you feel comfortable with, and then go to someone for help and say, this is what I've looked at, and then like, can you help me there? Because then, one, you're not getting any anxiety for not solving the problem. Two, you did your due diligence and you looked into it. And three, you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest thing, because I know a lot of individuals, when they're starting out, they stumble, they think they have to solve it themselves. And then they might get into like 6 hours got wasted looking into something when it could have been like 30 minutes and asking a question.
Yeah, and I know I'm interviewing you, but I will share this about my professional growth, that was a very important lesson for me to learn throughout my career. So it's pretty cool to hear you reflect the same, valuable tip. So that's cool. Okay, now you're graduated Rankin. You're looking for your first IT job. What tips do you have to get your foot in the door? What should they be doing once they're on the job hunt to stand out and get their first job?
That was, I would say, for me, what I did was side projects. I actually did them while I was in Rankin. I dove into doing some things with content management systems, with .NET, and that eventually landed me into a spot where like I felt comfortable in that space. So I narrowed down where I wanted to go to, like local companies that were doing work with content management systems. And then I eventually found one that did all of the same stuff Rankin did. So the same databases, the same technologies. And then that's where I was going for the job hunt there. So like finding a place you feel comfortable with and having a portfolio that you can show. That was important for me. And I would say like that's a good thing to show. A lot of the time companies are looking for people that, let's see if I can use the wording correctly here, that have like the initiative and the drive to be learners. You might not have the experience yet, but if you have like the aptitude to learn and things like that, that carries a lot of weight, especially in the interview process and like throughout your career. And then I think that's something like at Rankin you like naturally have, just because how the school works and how like fast paced it is. It's like having the initiative to go learn and show that, and like show you're continually learning even outside of school after you graduate. Like that has a lot more weight than maybe your missing experience.
So you said two things I want to highlight there: portfolio and side work. Rankin, in every semester nowadays, we have a project to add to a portfolio. So a portfolio is part of the curriculum, and so most students are going to graduate with several projects to show. But they're not side projects. They are school projects. Even if you're building something for someone else, they are school projects. And you found it very important to not only do the school projects, but to go a little bit above and beyond that and do some side work.
Yep.
How did you find clients for your side work?
That was very hard. That was mainly talking to some people I knew. I actually went around and talked to some of the other teachers at Rankin actually to find out if they had any work for me there. It was basically working, my side projects were like just simple websites and that, just so I can showcase more work and get more experience. A lot of them were in technologies like I didn't learn at Rankin. Like some of them were in PHP, doing things like that with like, other content management systems like WordPress and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of word of mouth and just talking with people, finding a spot that I can go in and do something. There are some websites out there that like you can like post to do some work and like see what offers are out there to kind of get more experience. Um, those have been hit and miss. It seems like to me it's always been more work to get the job that I was doing than it was to do the actual job. So word of mouth is mainly what I use. I just asked a lot of people.
Yeah, that worked. So Daugherty is competitive. I'm getting some feedback all of a sudden. Daugherty's very competitive with their salaries.
Yes.
I know that at least starting out at Daugherty University, they're very competitive. What tips would you give around salary expectations for someone starting out? Maybe at Daugherty, but maybe anywhere else. Starting out kind of salary expectations.
Let's see. So when I started, it was like half of what the expectations are now. But I haven't checked recently. I know this year it changed a lot. So like I would definitely look around, not just in St. Louis too. Like if you're wanting to look salary wise, but expand that a little bit. Like look at Kansas City and other places to try to get a good feel. The market's really booming right now. So there is, let's say, an unknown balance currently in the salary for junior engineers. The switch to work from home changed a lot of things. So like the market is to a spot where I really can't comment at the moment. But I would definitely, before you start looking for a job, look in the greater area of like local companies and what are remote positions. The one thing I will comment on that though is pay attention to everything a company is offering. It's not just salary. There's a lot of other things in it. One main thing is like the like standard benefits like health insurance and things like that, and like 401ks that companies are matching, because those add up over time. You might not see it originally, but like those are really important. The most important thing I would say that besides salary is check the work-life balance of companies. Like a company might be paying a lot higher salary than others, but the work-life balance might not match your lifestyle. And that's the most important thing. Like if you want to work a lot right now, then you can go ahead and do that. But if that's not what you're currently, like your lifestyle is, like don't go to a company where you're going to burn out and not want to continue forward.
Yeah, so you've been in the industry for 11 years, and you're not burnt out as demonstrated by still being in the industry. So, do you see yourself, is this your forever industry, or do you see yourself someday in the future, changing careers?
I would say that changes with the tides. Currently, like teaching's been my passion since I left school. So, like that's something I want to do. The one benefit I got from the current employer I have is I can do both. So I can teach and be out in the field at the same time. So like that is like my happy median. And I have the benefit of saying like I don't want to teach anymore, and then like take a year off from teaching and then get back into it when I want to. So if I can like foreshadow myself, I would probably say teaching is the future that I would get into. But I still like the world I'm living in where I can do both.
Well, whenever you decide to become that teacher, I hope Rankin gets your resume.
I will. Let's do that.
Man, I think you answered some questions. You knocked them out of the park. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to my students. I'll open it up to my class. What questions do you guys have for Chris? Again, really good resource. to ask some questions, and I'll repeat them. So, just in case you can't hear them. Yeah, Sam.
How do you manage the 5 monitors on the desk?
How can you manage 5 monitors at once?
There are 3 different computers. So 2 of them are my client. One of them is the computer I'm on right now, which is usually where I take notes, and then music and email.
Nice. So they all have their roles, it sounds like.
Yes. I have a big, long, L-shaped desk as well, so it's a benefit to have lots of space.
Is there any forecast to go back into the office, or is it seemingly to you the industry as a whole is forever work from home? Do you have a prediction on that?
Every company is a little bit different right now. So I know some are going back into the office a couple days a week. Where I'm at currently, the prediction is they're changing the office spaces to be more of a, you come in and you don't have like a finite space anymore. You don't have that big desk. Like hoteling stations, I think, is a better word for those. But there hasn't been any like, yes, you have to come in the areas where I'm at. Which is like beneficial for me. So I'm fine being at home. I'm really productive this way. And then after my son was born, I worked from home for 18 months. So this is like kind of a something I'm used to. But I haven't seen anything where it's always have to be in the office now. And I think that is really going to be the future, where it's going to be like more of a blend of work from home or be in the office.
Cool. Other questions? Yep.
Did you already say his favorite language?
Do you have a favorite language?
I would say right now Golang's still my favorite language, just because I have some public packages that I work on with that, and it's fun to use. As far as like working out in the field, TypeScript's the language of choice that I use the most. Wouldn't say it's my favorite. That's the one I use the most.
All right, I'm going to take a question. You get to make a 2-year curriculum at Ranken Technical College. Semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, semester 4, big topics. What are you teaching?
Let's see. One, I would probably throw the curriculum on its head and not teach in a traditional like school sense. I would probably make it similar to how a project would be in the field. So like have like agile principles be taught with it, where each course would be similar to like doing a sprint on an actual team. And then like the learning objectives would be like stories that you would work on with it. So that way it's built into the curriculum how you would live in the field and how you would work there. So as you're learning new objectives, doing things, presenting them, you're doing the same process that you would do in the day job.
Yeah.
Other than that, it would be probably a mix of doing backend technologies, either that's like Java or C#, depending on which way you want to go there. I would lean more to C#. And then going into front end with probably React. So my 2 cents would be you would do it in slices, like teach basics of Java, enough to get like a web server up. Teach the basics of React and basics of databases, and then have for those 2 years be doing vertical slices of stories as your learning objective. So like not only here's how you teach an API, and this is how you do it in Java, like this is how we implement a full feature, so to speak. So like if it's like a blog website, here's how you create a post. And then do the work in the database, do the work in the API, do the work in the front end, do some testing, and then move on to the next one, because then it's repetitive learning, and then you can keep building on top of that.
I think you'd be proud of our curriculum if you came and checked us out. I think you'd be proud, because we're doing that very similar to what you just described.
Awesome.
I appreciate that feedback. Yes?
What made you want to become a teacher?
What made you want to become a teacher?
I've always wanted to become a teacher since like grade school. Never really had anything to teach though until I got into pretty much Rankin, and then I wanted to get into my first semester of Rankin, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Got into programming, and then from there, uh, realized from knowing the content wasn't uh, as satisfying as being able to know the content and teach it to someone else to prove that I knew what I was talking about. And like from there, like that spark made me wanting to be a teacher. And then like over the last 11 years of teaching others and training and doing that, like that's just grown to like watch the people that you taught grown and then they become teachers too. Especially in the field, like that's just like a really satisfying feeling to see.
Yeah, I concur. Right.
So, why, or what about computer science and developing like piqued your interest? Like, why did you choose this industry?
Why'd you choose this industry over the other side of IT or any other industry?
I don't like networking, so I didn't do anything with that. And then like other IT stuff, let's see, like the actual hardware side of things. I'm too nervous touching hardware. You should have like seen me sweating trying to build my computer, and like panicking when it didn't turn on. It's like that. That's not for me. As far as like the like coding aspect of it, like solving problems, I just really like doing that. And like math's always been something I wanted to like go further in, but I'm not really that good at it. So like coding got me there. Also like I did video games. Like I wanted to make my own games and do things like that. Like doing those kinds of things. Now I can do that on the side, and it's just like fun to like take what I did at work and be like, I can put this like kind of work into a game, and then like I can play with that on the side.
If that doesn't speak to every high schooler playing video games and they want to make their own game, I don't know what does. I think at least half of my students have told me that throughout my career. You know, so that's cool to hear your answer there. Any other questions? Going once, going twice, sold. All right, Chris, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for taking the time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.